All right, I think we're gonna just get started now. Just wanted to say good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of Market Smart, I wanted to thank everyone for lending us some of your time today for today's webinar, How to Generate More Planned Gifts with Less Money and Reduce Resources, an Introduction to Engagement Fundraising. And this will be hosted by Market Smart's founder and CEO, Greg Warner. Just to give you guys a little context here, Greg's story actually starts out about 20 years ago when he was working as a marketer for Fortune 500 companies. And essentially, as his career began to develop, he and his wife began to donate frequently towards diabetes research because his wife has been insulin dependent since she was a child. So, what got him into the planned giving world is maybe what you're asking. About 8 years ago, Greg received a newsletter from one of his beloved diabetes charities, which sought to generate leads for its planned giving department. And so, in a nutshell, this charity was more or less targeting the wrong supporters with the wrong message, and consequently, they weren't getting the best planned giving results. So Greg decided to improve the effectiveness of this charity's lead generation and cultivation efforts with a fresh strategy. After implementing Greg's plan, the organization generated more highly qualified leads and found more gifts than it previously uncovered in any single marketing campaign ever. So, without any further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Greg and let him continue his story for you all. Also, if you guys have any questions at all throughout this webinar, feel free to type them into the chat bar on the GoToWebinar control panel. But yeah, okay, Greg, go ahead, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm happy to have you here, and I'm going to jump right into it so that we can get going. I got a lot to tell you, and I'm thrilled, in fact, that so many people have decided to join this event, because this is kind of my stump speech. And I've kind of decided I'm not going to go around giving this speech that much more live and in person, only because I get a little bit frustrated when I go to events, because there's too much misinformation going around at these conferences. And it just kind of drives me nuts. So we'll see how this runs. I decided, well, I can actually reach more people digitally this way than I do it at any one single conference. And this way, I don't have to get frustrated to hear things that are just wrong. So I'm going to jump right into it and give you today's agenda. Jeff already talked a little bit about who am I and why should you even take any advice from me, and I'll get into a little bit of that, but Jeff covered it nicely. What are engagement fundraising basics is what I'll jump into next. Engagement fundraising is a phrase I coined, I think it's maybe about 3 years ago. We'll get into that deep, because that's really what this is all about. And then I'm going to show you lots of examples, new concepts, and some low-cost ways to raise money, because we know that y'all don't have huge budgets. So one caution sign here, one little warning, is that I have been called some names. Let's see. I like some of them. Some of them I don't like. The one I like this one, iconoclast. Boy, that's a great word. That's from my friend Dr. Russell James. I'll have to look it up again, but it just sounds cool. And but the reason why I give you the warning is because I'm going to challenge some orthodoxies. There's been set rules about how to conduct, especially planned gift marketing, that have been passed down almost for generations now, and a lot of them just don't apply. So when I debunk these myths and challenge these orthodoxies, you may feel defensive, and that's perfectly normal and natural. Just try and keep an open mind, and I promise you, these tactics, they work. So stick with it, okay? Don't get too defensive about it. So a little more filler about me. I don't know, perhaps you've seen, there was an article in the Washington Post. Of course, we're in the DC area, so more people subscribe to that than probably around the country. Locally here, but there was an article about us in the business section, which was nice. There's also, some of you may know us from our relationship with Dr. James, and what we've learned and how we've put a lot of his research into practice. And then there's an award, it's a spinoff from the Small Business Administration, is the Senior Corps of Retired Executives. So those are former CEOs. There's 16,000 CEOs, and they voted us the most outstanding innovative small business for this year. So we're really proud of that. Otherwise, you may have heard of, well, a lot of you, I saw about 70% of the people on this webinar are actually subscribers to our newsletter or have downloaded some of our ebooks or are part of our marketing group on LinkedIn. If you're not in that group, I recommend you join it and engage with us in our conversations. They're a lot of fun. Okay, so the story goes, and just this adds a little bit of color to it, is that yes, we were doing advertising and marketing and lead generation for large organizations, some advocacy work because we are in the DC area. But my wife is an insulin dependent diabetic since the age of 9. And when well, this says, okay, I forgot about this slide. This is really showing her eye. You know, diabetics, sadly, they tend to lose vision. She's got problems with her hands, problems with her feet. Diabetes is just an awful disease. So she's pretty much blind in one eye. And actually, my wife almost died from having giving birth to our first child. There's my daughter right there. So we've been giving to these diabetes-related charities, and when I just found the marketing that they were sending us was wacky, is the best way that I could describe it, and especially when I came to look at the planned gift marketing. I found it even more wacky than regular fundraising. There was just tons of these very legalistic, very technical types of newsletters. There was these cookie cutter websites that are the same website essentially as, I mean, many organizations might have the same one pretty much, just change the logo, and same with their brochures. And then there was a lot of spam going out. And I know that nonprofits are basically exempt from the Can Spam Act in some ways, but I don't think that's a good reason to spam people. Spam is, you know, if people have not opted in and they don't want your emails, that's spam. Now, when it came to basic, like real world marketing, you got to test, you got to look at results and talk about it, and you got to be truthful about your results. You got to be very transparent about exactly what's happening, because the only way to improve results is to actually see them, analyze them, and then work to get better. So I had found from my first engagement in this space that getting results out of people was very, very hard. And sometimes to the point of misdirection and lying about what was really happening with legacy gift marketing results. So that just kind of threw me for a loop. And I ended up helping an organization, and it really, really worked well. We got referred to other organizations, and then I decided that this marketing company would only focus on plan giving, but the software that you really needed didn't exist, so we built it. So that's my story. I don't want to turn that into a sales pitch. During that time, I learned a lot about, or I gained a lot of empathy for your challenges, and they are that you really don't have enough time, you don't have enough staff, your budgets are tight, traveling around the country or around the region to meet with people is very expensive and time consuming. And you really want to make sure that if you're going to engage with people one-to-one, that they're very qualified, because your time is valuable. You don't want to sit, and spend hours and days with someone to find that they, A, don't have any money, and B, are never really going to leave you in their will. I mean, they've got to have the passion. So this is the marketing challenge, really. And I learned what you want to know essentially is who should you call, when should you call them, why do they care, and what should you say when you finally get them on the line or get in front of them. So that's what we're going to help you learn through the magic of engagement fundraising. Okay, first we're going to go through some basics, and this is really, unless anyone is got a graduate degree in marketing or even an undergraduate degree in marketing. Usually, when I speak at conferences, just about zero people raise their hands saying that they have a graduate degree or even a undergraduate degree in marketing. So I'm going to run through some of those marketing basics, and then we're going to get into some examples, some new concepts, and some low-cost ideas. The first basic about marketing is that marketing relationships and real human relationships are really the same thing. You got to have trust. Your relationship has to have relevance. So think about it this way before I keep clicking. Think about it as if you were to ask a friend to go to a movie. You know, they're not going to go to the movies if they don't trust you. They're not going to go to the movies unless you're my wife. If she makes me go to movies I don't want to see. But generally, the movies that we see are relevant and they're personal. And she's going to ask me, or let's suppose a friend, for instance, will ask me to go to the movies. He's going to send a message that's personalized. It's to me. And the movie that we'll see is relevant. The conversation we'll have before we go to the movie is going to be conversational. It's not going to say something like, would you like to partake in a cinematic feature? You know, I mean, it's going to have real conversational human language. And that's what marketing messages need to have as well. It's got to be conversational, sound like it's from a real human. There's got to be interaction. There's got to be engagement and involvement. It's got to be polite and respectful. There's got to be value for each person, each party involved. It's got to be convenient. Using multiple channels, you may get a phone call and then you'll confirm by email and then you'll finally see each other face to face. And finally, it's got to be strategic. Now, friendships and relationships are always based on a strategic reason. There's always a reason behind them. You know, you're not going to be friends. You're not going to build a relationship with someone unless there's a good reason. So if there's a bad reason for you to get together, then it's going to end up falling apart. And it's the same thing with fundraising and marketing relationships. They're just like real relationships. The next thing is that these marketing and real relationships similarly have stages. So this was a maintenance model, a relationship model that was created, really, I think this book was written about 30 years ago. I kind of remember it, I think, when I was in college. Ooh, wow, I'm dating myself. But the idea is that you go up the ladder or up the hill, and then you reach a plateau in a relationship where hopefully it stays forever, but otherwise it will come apart, or I should say stagnate, and then finally come apart and terminate. Now, this is what happens in fundraising a lot of times, especially with acquisition marketing, is that you'll get that first gift. You might even get the second gift, but then all of a sudden it falls apart and people stop giving. What we want, especially with major gifts and legacy gifts, is we want people to reach that plateau, to leave a legacy gift, and then to stay involved and never go away. And that's hard to do when you're understaffed and underfunded, but it can be done through marketing, because marketing can provide like a one-to-many type of relationship. If it's done right, it'll keep people at that plateau level. But I just wanted to reinforce that these stages of a relationship and the other pieces of the relationship that I mentioned here, the similarities, it's really important to recognize that being a human being needs to be reflected in your marketing. So next is recognizing that there is a marketing funnel. Okay. So years ago, when when newspapers first started getting invented, this is like after the most important advertising being done was the wanted dead or alive poster. So then you get the newspaper, and newspaper advertising was used to fund the newspapers. So they had to figure out, like, how do we make these ads effective? And that's really the beginning of the marketing funnel. And these four items here is awareness, interest, desire, and action. It's in marketing, it's AIDA, and everybody knows it. And the idea is that you need to get people into your funnel. First, build awareness for what you're quote unquote selling, then move people through the funnel so that there's a generated interest, and then desire is being built, so that finally they'll take action. Okay. In legacy gift marketing, this is a very long process. In acquisition, fundraising, it can be a very quick process. You get a letter, you get interested, you have desire to help the cause, and you take action, you write a check. But for legacy gift marketing, you're talking about getting in someone's will, or getting them to change their beneficiary designation, or maybe create an insurance policy, or even sell a business and leave it to your organization. So this is some major actions. This is what I would call an enterprise sale. It's going to take some time. The problem with traditional legacy gift marketing is that it tries to do too much in one single effort. So you try and move people from awareness to action in one effort. And I can understand why that was done in the past, is because it's very expensive to send out this kind of marketing, usually by direct mail. So you want to just move it and try and get people to take that action. And it's just too fast. But luckily today, there's ways that we can slow down the process so that it's more donor centric. One of the ways to do that, before you actually get into tactics, but strategically thinking, is to turn the funnel on its side and start to think of it as more of an hourglass. So the reason this is so important is because although you want to move people from awareness and interest, desire, to finally take action and leave a gift in their estate plan, that's really, the funny thing is that's the beginning of that's kind of the beginning of the process. Because my friend Phyllis Friedman, one of the best plan giving consultants in the country, gave me this phrase of the consideration continuum. And that means that people are always thinking about this. They can take you out of their estate plan just as easily most times as they can put you in. So they're always considering this kind of gift, and how you steward them could mean the difference between whether you stay in or go out. And in fact, early deciders, according to research from Dr. Russell James, early deciders leave 4 times more money than late deciders. So getting into that plan, that estate plan, earlier, and then stewarding the relationship and involving folks properly and engaging with them is really the key to getting more money. Now, of course, you could just try and take people through this whole process at the very, very end of life. That's not necessarily a bad strategy, but you'll be missing quite a lot of people, and you'll be missing the big bump of a 400% increase if you do it right with a more long-term strategic approach. Okay, so now we covered the basics. Next, we're going to get into some direct marketing kind of 101. Direct marketing 101 features here involve 4 components. All direct marketing generally involves a list, an offer, timing, and the creative. Okay, most people like to start with the creative, and that's the last place you should really think about. First, we're going to go right in order here. Let's talk about the list and go right through to the creative, okay? So here's where I'm going to break some stuff. Okay, there's been the conventional wisdom, which is to look at your past giving history of your prospects and try and determine who in that list is likely to leave a legacy gift. Now, we've done quite a bit of marketing since I changed this business, and I've been tracking this and looking at there is some degree, albeit not that great, but some degree of truth to this. The one area where there's really, I haven't been able to find any truth to it is in the longevity of giving. So I have not been able to see that long-time givers are any more likely to leave a legacy gift than fairly recent givers. But frequency of giving, recency, and total dollars given has added a little bit of a bump. But this stuff is not your best stuff, okay? Where you get your best stuff is from the unconventional wisdom, which is what I call verbatims. So verbatims are measured by following people's level of engagement, their passion, their involvement. This is why volunteers are such great prospects, even if they've never donated. Finding out a family-oriented connection. You know, if you're a hospital, did this person's mom, was that person's mom in the hospital? Is that where she finally passed away? You know, did hospice take care of your aunt? You know, if there's a family-oriented connection, that's going to be very powerful. Finding out why people care will help you determine their level of passion, their level of commitment. But these are the really big ones. Is childlessness is the single greatest predictor of likelihood to leave a legacy gift. And next followed by level of education. I mean, the more highly educated people are simply, and this is statistically proven from Dr. James, these folks are more likely to leave a gift. Now, of course, age is going to be a predictor of some level of decision making. I mean, I wouldn't go after 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. Although late 40s, I think mid to late 40s is the time when people make their first will. So there's a certain, except the only problem with that is that you're going to be waiting 45 years for the money. But then again, every tree that you've probably sat under for shade had been planted by someone else 20, 30, 40 years ago. So I wouldn't ignore those folks. The question is, how do you stay on top of those folks? How do you market them when there's so many of them? And we'll talk about that. But first, I'm going to keep breaking some stuff. The next thing is this fundraising pyramid, which really got me scratching my head when I first got into this, because it's cool. I get it to a certain degree. You know, you get first-time donors, make them repeat donors, move them up to major donors, and then you get the legacy gift. Well, that's great if they have capacity to even become a major donor and to leave a legacy gift. But not that many people are really going to move up this pyramid, especially legacy gift donors, because most legacy gift donors are not necessarily wealthy. This is kind of the average person's gift. The middle class way to provide a major gift is after their lifetime, when they don't need the money anymore. So I'm not against this pyramid, but I think that it's really only half the picture. The other part of the picture is all the other legacy gifts, which can come from staff and volunteers and people who are following you on Facebook and whatnot. And we, in fact, have one very well-known nature organization that works with us where over 80%, I think it's 83% of their legacy gifts come from people who never, ever made a donation. So that's a large number. I know that probably doesn't apply for all of you, but it's just something worth understanding is that there's a wide reach, and it's not just moving people up the pyramid. Another way, really the last way to look at this, is looking at it as a target. Like who are you going to reach out to? You know, there are non-donors, and there's donors, of course, and frequent long-time donors, and then there's your leads. I mean, I think you probably want to go after your leads people first. But really, before that, you want to make sure to shore up your Legacy Society members and your board. Okay. So we're just trying to get this list thing figured out. And again, in the past, it would be with wealth and demographic screening and past giving and affinity history. But we want to figure out who's going to act now. So you need more of a 360-degree profile for that. And that's where you get into the verbatims, which you can measure with online engagement, survey tracking, survey data, and measurements for levels of engagement, passion, commitment, things like that. And there are tools that can help you with this, not just mine, but others as well. So now that we know a little more about the list, which is probably making you all scratch your head a little bit more, is that really anybody could leave you a legacy gift. Then you wonder, okay, well, what do we do? How do we target people? Well, the idea is that you want to get people into the funnel. It's not just a one and done, zero in on certain people, target them, aim to get a legacy gift out of them, and then move on. The idea is more long term, and you want to get people into the funnel. And the only way you could do that is to provide an offer. And the reason you want to get them in the funnel is so that then your list becomes smaller, only made up of people who are interested, and you can engage properly with that smaller list to cultivate it over time. Okay? It's a funnel. You move people in by providing an offer, and then you engage with them and cultivate them really forever. Now, when you get to offers, this is the second part of direct marketing. Usually we think about coupons and special sales and things like that. That's what you usually see in retail. And then you wonder, well, what can we offer in planned gift marketing? I mean, we want to get people into the funnel, so we've got to provide an offer. And we're going to talk more about this in the creative area. But for now, I'm going to talk to you about how you create an offer and what are the finer points that you need to consider in creating an offer. And the first and most important part of offer development is that the offer must provide value. I'm going to say that again. It's so important, and it's a core feature of everything that I've talked about for the past few years in this, is that an offer must provide value. So these guys at Strategizer have this really cool little strategy canvas, and I'll go through it with you real quick here to explain that the development of an offer, you need to think about your customer. In this case, it's a donor, and their emotional wants, their needs, and their fears. Think about those. How can you alleviate their pain? How can you make them feel good? What do they desire? Then you have to look at your offer, which is essentially a product of some sort, or it might be a service in some way. You have to look at the features and the benefits and what kind of experience that offer is going to deliver so that you fulfill the donor's wants, needs, and allay them of their fears. And finally, in developing this offer, you need a way to move people from their inertia, because people will just do nothing unless they are inspired and compelled to act. So sometimes that could be a time limit. Sometimes it could be the fact that it's free. Whatever you can do in the creative, there's lots of different ways to move people so that they feel like they've got to get it now. So this offer has to provide value, get people into the funnel. Now, when it comes to offers, they really need to be two-way. And remember, this comes from the relationship theories from earlier. They need to be two-way, give people a way to talk to you. Use a chat tool, provide your email. I can't tell you how many times I go onto a website and I cannot find the phone number or a way to email the person at the charity. And if I can, it's often an info at kind of email, or it goes to some mysterious black hole, and the phone number is the main phone number, and I can't get them on the phone. make it easy for them. They're thinking about giving you 50 grand, the offer needs to be informational, educational. It has to provide great feelings and maybe even sometimes entertain them. Video is great, a great offer, but most of all, it has to be convenient. Make it convenient. The king of convenience is Amazon.com. If any of you have ever bought anything from Amazon, and I would figure that you probably have, it's the most convenient buying experience ever. And if you start looking at something, they will suggest alternatives and comparatives and all kinds of ideas for you to buy similar products or to compare other things. It's just great. And you need to think along those lines. How can you give people what I call the Disney experience or the Amazon experience so that when they're opting in to get that offer, it's super convenient and a great experience? Now, traditional offers, going back to breaking stuff, I found this on the internet, and I honestly, I don't even know who created this, but I've seen it on a lot of different pages. And this is some kind of guide for creating an offer in the traditional types of marketing. Is that, well, if they're wealthy, you offer this, and if they only have limited means, then you offer that, and by their age, and this thing is a bunch of phooey. Okay, because you know, I just can't imagine offering someone a charitable lead trust. I mean, not in the beginning, maybe at the very, very, very end when they're about to take action or there's a deep desire. But this is not an offer grid. It talks all about death and finance and taxes, and it's legalist, and it's very complicated words that 99% of humanity probably doesn't understand. Only the wealthy will. But when it comes to offers to really get a wide variety and a wide audience into your funnel, you want to give people opportunities to think about their life. Don't ask them to think about their death. Think about life and the legacy they want to leave behind. Allow them to engage. And most of all, help them get past their avoidance of this subject. Because if anything lights up in their brain that they have to think about death, they will stop. None of us want to think about our death. We all want to think about life. So I'll show you some examples about that. But first, I'm going to show you that so here's some offers that are weak. I'll give you some stronger offers, and I'll show you examples because we're moving closer to that part. First, tell us about your gift so we can plan ahead. Now, I'm sorry, but not that many people really care that much about helping your organization plan ahead. Generally, free estate planning dinners are going to get people who want to eat a free meal. Join our legacy society. I've never met anyone who wants to leave a legacy gift because they want to be part of a legacy society, and darn it, they just want to get that pin. I mean, these are weak offers. I'm sorry, and this is the point where I might offend some people, but these are just not the strongest offers. They're not awful. Don't jump out your window, but they're not great. Okay. The worst one I've ever seen is in a brochure that says, make a will, or otherwise the IRS is going to get your money, something like that, or the government is going to get your money. I mean, okay, now I'm really thinking about death and the IRS, two of the least favorite things I ever want to think about. And they're both in one brochure. So some better offers are to engage people to share their story with you. See a video about someone who left a gift. Download a checklist to plan, or maybe I wrote a blog post on this, but write a legacy kind of letter to your family so you can pass on your values and what life lessons you've learned, and leave a legacy and feel good doing it, because you'll know that you'll live on in the minds of others, especially your family members, if you do this. So maybe a helpful checklist infographic or something about how to write this kind of letter. Those are good offers. They feel good. They feel good to the supporter. We'll get into more offers in a minute. Next is timing. Okay, so timing is, remember the funnel that's turned on its side. And you're probably wondering why there's a boardwalk in the summertime and snow shovels. And I'll say, so imagine that one of these stores on the boardwalk is selling snow shovels in the summertime. At first glance, you'd think, well, that's dumb. That's a bad offer. They shouldn't have a sale for snow shovels in the summertime. It's just not, nobody's going to buy it. The timing is all off. But what if there's a sandcastle contest that weekend? All of a sudden, it's good timing, right? So if you have a good offer with bad timing, like if you're giving 50% off these shovels, but it's summertime and it's not a sandcastle contest, you're going to get bad results. And if you have a bad offer, maybe not enough of a discount, and this, that, the other thing, but good time, you're going to get bad results. The key is to get good offers with good timing. That'll give you the best results. And to get really sophisticated about it is that if you get people into your funnel and you identify where they are along the consideration continuum, then you should match offers with their stage of the consideration process. So people who are in stewardship mode, I mean, don't forget, they left a gift, they told you about it, they're in the Legacy Society, but what if you never invite them to do anything, or you never show them the impact your organization is delivering? Well, what if you just never even talk to them again, never send them letters? One of the funny things about fundraising is that a lot of times mid-level donors get pulled out of one list and get ignored. They're not big enough for major donor cultivation, and they're not small enough for the annual funds, so then they get ignored. And where do they go? Nowhere. We don't want to ignore anybody, but you also want to make sure you're sending the right offers to the right people, depending on where they are in the consideration process. This is a consideration continuum. It could take many years before people decide to leave a gift. And you want to reach out when people are ready, but you need to cultivate them all this time, and you need to monitor their reactions, whether they're engaging or not. So valuable offers will help you build awareness. They'll help you generate interest. They'll deliver more engagement. And when you get more engagement, they'll build more desire for them to leave this kind of gift. And when their desire is intense, they'll take action. The key is monitoring where people are in the consideration process. Okay, finally, creative. And then we'll get into some free stuff, some free ideas, that are low cost. You want to get them into the legacy state of mind, legacy giving state of mind. If you've watched Dr. Russell James' webinars or been to some of his events, you will already know this, is that bequest giving is different. Attracting them with the right kinds of messages will get you more of the responses that you want. I call this the Fantastic Four. So there's the symbolic immortality, which is the people want to live on after their lifetime. Autobiographical heroism, they want to be perceived favorably after they're gone. Also, you want people to visualize their autobiography. This gets them in the right state of mind, seeing yourself in the third person perspective. And then commemorative immortality is very powerful, because if you could get people to think about their loved ones, and that they can make this kind of gift to honor or pay tribute to someone, that's a very powerful motivator. And that helps for you to create campaigns, since we're talking about creative, that will be effective. The whole idea is to get people past the avoidance of the subject of death, and to give them offers that are kind of like giving them medicine along with a spoonful of sugar. Because the medicine is that you want to teach them about the ideas of leaving a gift in their estate plan, but nobody wants to think about death. So you got to give them the offers in a way that is like a spoonful of sugar. So here's 3 examples of creative that works. One is what I call the Tell Your Story campaign. And it could be kind of writing a memoir, or just one of the best ones. This is for the Ocean Conservancy, but one of the best ones, one that's amazing is the U.S. Holocaust Museum. The kinds of responses that we got from people telling stories about their loved ones in the Holocaust would just bring tears to anybody's eyes. But that kind of movement and emotional involvement between your organization, which is really you, and the supporter is what you need to get them to think about how meaningful this kind of gift can be. And that emotion is going to be the powerful motivator to create the intense desire that's required, not to talk about a charitable lead trust. That's very pragmatic thinking, but people don't make decisions based on pragmatism. They make it based on emotion. So keep it in line with the emotion. Another one is a tribute or a memorial campaign, where this one for a hospital, they have a rose garden outside, which is essentially an outdoor waiting room, and around the rose garden, there are these plaques with people's names on it of people who left a gift in their will. So why not offer your supporters an opportunity to be in that rose garden or whatever memorial area that you have available? And by offering that, you will get a certain percentage of people who like that offer to opt in and get into that funnel. Another one, if you're having trouble getting budget for marketing, you probably want to team up with your major gifts folks and create a challenge campaign whereby you get a major donor to provide for challenge dollars. So, for instance, maybe a sponsor will provide for $100,000, and the offer to the supporters, the donors, is for every person who raises their hand and comes forward and says that they left a gift in their estate plan, this sponsor will donate in real time today $1,000, up to 100 people. Let's go. Tell us about your gift, and ask us for more information, because if you do, that will trigger a donation today. You coming forward costs nothing, but it does generate $1,000 from the sponsor. So please come forward. That's a great offer. And it will generate $100,000 cash for your organization. That's the challenge. Okay, so some new concepts to just go outside a little bit. This is kind of like window dressing on engagement fundraising for just to finish up the last 10 minutes of our event here, is employ what this is another thing I created called 3-2-1 fundraising. So we have these pads, by the way, available. I'll give you the URL. You can get these free pads. Basically, the idea is that when you get a gift, a major gift, a small gift, whatever, if you're meeting with donors, and especially for major gifts, write the supporter's name on the left side of the pad, and then thank them. Make sure to report results and offer an opportunity for engagement, whether it's be to give them a tour, to send them pictures of the children that they helped, etc. Give them that opportunity for engagement, and do all 3 before you ask for another gift. If you do that, you'll be much, much, much more likely to get another gift. And I think it's just the right way to treat people. So here's the URL. There's the URL, imarketsmart.com 321. So if you want to order that, just jot that down, imarketsmart.com 321. They're free. I mean, we just give them away. They're great. We bought a whole bunch of them. Okay, remember the consideration continuum. The last few years of life are turbulent. people will make changes, but the early deciders give 4 times more. So the idea here is to, of course, generate disclosures and steward them forever. You want to generate leads and discover where they are in the consideration process, learn about their interests and desires, and zero in on who's really ready. But the key is, as you get people into this funnel, you want to cultivate them forever. Okay? Another new idea here, which is something I got whacked for a lot when I first started this, it was just awful, frankly, is that I was telling people to leverage technology, and everybody was telling me that their donors do not engage online, which has been phooey for years. But the idea here is that, we all used to look at encyclopedias, and now there's Google and Wikipedia. And look, it's just cheaper, faster, more efficient. So if you're not on the train to doing something digitally, you're really missing out. It's lower cost and it's much more efficient. And frankly, it's more effective. But I won't get into all of those details unless you want to chat with us privately. But the bottom line is, and everybody knows that leveraging technology, Google especially, Facebook, I mean, every company, every private company in the universe knows that leveraging technology makes you more efficient, allows you to engage with more people at lower costs. You can be more relevant, more personalized. Think about Amazon.com. You can automate your cultivation processes so that you zero in on the right people at the right time and really nail that timing. Hit people when they're hot. That's when you're going to get a decision, is when their interest and desire are burning. So you can do more with less time and reduced resources if you leverage technology. Okay, low-cost ideas, and then we're going to wrap it up. This is an idea I got from Claire Meyerhoff. She's a plan giving consultant, and it's called Pizza Party Plan Giving. So the idea here is that you buy a pizza, you write up some ideas and you create some lists of people you're going to call. You invite board members and volunteers and staff members, and you get on the phones. And you call supporters and you say thank you. And then you ask them why they care and how they got involved, and ask them to tell you their story. And at the very end of that, you tell them that you weren't sure if they were interested in this, but many of your supporters consider leaving a gift in their will or their insurance policy or in their bank beneficiary designation to your organization. And then just ask, is this something you might consider? And see what you get. Many people will say, sure, I'd consider that. Some people will say, well, I already did it. And some people will say, no, that's not something I would consider. But the law of averages is that you're going to get great leads, and it's only going to cost you a couple of pizzas. Next idea is very simply putting inserts in your donation receipts. But you really got to think about what words and pictures you put on those inserts. So rather than giving them out here, I'm just going to tell you that you probably should test 2, 3, maybe even 4 different inserts and just intermittently use them and see which ones get you the most leads. The one that gets you the most leads is your control. After that, test one thing on and off against that control to determine which one generates the most leads for you, and keep going. If you run out of energy now you've got a good control, so just keep that and let it run and go on to some other marketing effort. But this is very inexpensive. You can even print them off your copier and then stick them in there with your receipts and thank you letters. Okay, social media. Anytime you get a gift, or if you're notified of it, or even if you get an anonymous gift, you really should talk about it on social media, because this is going to build awareness. And if you have some kind of a conversion or landing page or an offer to provide people who might consider a legacy gift, you really should talk about that on Facebook or Twitter or other avenues. Large visual displays. I mean, just putting them out at events or in your lobby. It's really not that expensive considering how much a legacy gift can provide. Make your messages ubiquitous. Make sure that they're everywhere. If you're wondering what message to put, the simplest one is to just say that many of our supporters have done this. Would you consider it? Here's our legacy gift language. Here's our tax ID. Something simple. Just keep it simple. Charitable gift annuities. That's an easy one that you could also print off your own printer and send 10, 20 letters out each week. Just make sure that you provide the rate and how much they'll get based on their age and depending on the donation, whether it's $10,000 is your minimum or whatnot, but keep the letter really simple. This is really just a banking offer. There are some organizations that actually get a lot of charitable gift annuities and people don't, it's not really their first most important mission that they support, but they like the offer of getting money. So be sure to ask your board, your staff, your volunteers, especially your board. If everybody on your board has not been asked yet, you got to start there. Let them know that sometimes the easiest way is to just change the beneficiary designations. I mean, a board member really should leave on something, even if it's $500. Ads and periodicals. Now, if you do that with a reply device stuck in there so people can mail it back, you will get leads. If you do it without a reply device, you're not going to get very many leads. You're just going to build awareness, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It's just if you want leads, you really need to create a convenient, easy way for people to respond. Banner ads are really low cost, and the way you can do that is that with Google, for every person who visits your main website, a cookie can be put on their computer so that when they leave and go to CNN.com or HuffingtonPost.com or whatever, there's ad space there. It's usually going to be like a car ad or something, or a beer ad, I guess, or something like that. So let's face it, they don't want to see that car ad. They'd be much happier to see an ad from you guys anyway. So you can make it so that when they get to CNN.com, that triggers a message to show your ad. All right, that's the end of our presentation. I'm going to run through what we learned. We talked about the funnel, building awareness, generating interest, developing desire, motivating action. Talked a little bit about the unconventional wisdom about selecting your lists and how you really have to go wide and move people into the funnel. You got to have a good offer that delivers value if you want to entice people to get into that funnel. Then you can determine, based on their interest, their passion, their engagement, their involvement, how to send the right cultivation offers and follow-ups to the right people at the right time. Develop creative that really gets people thinking about life. Stay away from legalese and death messages. Leverage technology, if you can afford it, to track and core messages. That meant score engagement, not core engagement. And start with low-cost ideas, okay? Like the pizza party plan giving is just really great. You will get gifts if you use pizza party plan giving, I promise you. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. I believe that we have some webinars that webinars that we have some questions in here. If you have questions now, I will hang around. We have quite a few in here, so bear with me, and I will log in here to look at the questions. Okay. Well, the first one is somebody gave me the definition of iconoclast. Thank you, Don. Love it. Next, longevity of giving rationality relate to the first 5 listed under unconventional wisdom. If you could retype that, Cole, I'm not sure I really understand the question. Does it relate to unconventional wisdom? I guess it's unconventional to me, but it was conventional because it's kind of in a lot of things I've seen online. So I hope I'm answering that properly. How would you suggest we measure engagement? Is there a formula with numerical values to calculate? Okay, so this kind of gets into, I'll be really brief because it kind of gets into a little bit of a salesy pitch here for MarketSmart, because we're the only ones who really monitor this kind of engagement, and we do it for our clients with an algorithm that's been created in partnership with Dr. Russell James. So, is there a formula? Yes. And are there no numerical values to calculate? Yes. But to go any further into that, it kind of becomes a sales pitch. So I'm going to move on. Are we going to be able to get a copy of the presentation? Yes. In fact, because there's so many slides here, we actually truncate it a little bit and create an ebook after every webinar. And in a few days, we will send out an email to all the participants first, and then we offer it to our wider audience. So thanks for that question, Paul. That is the slides. Yes, Paul. It won't be all the slides, but it will be an ebook. It'll actually make it more digestible. What was that about a legacy letter? Okay, so I'll go over that a little bit more. I wrote a blog post about this because my wife's grandmother had written on her deathbed a letter to all the family members that she gave and handed to my wife. And it really was a beautiful handwritten letter explaining all the values that she wanted to pass on to all the other cousins and her children and everybody in the family. And she asked my wife to take that letter and to make sure that everybody else got copies of it. And she did. And we also, we framed it and we put it up in the foyer. I guess you call it a foyer, the entrance of our house. So it's the first thing anybody sees when they get into our house. That gave me the idea that to help people think about their life and their legacy, you should offer them tips on how they can write this kind of legacy letter. Maybe I'll blog about it with my tips on it. We have a report, but it's part of one of our campaigns that we do for clients, is that we help them create this offer for their donors, because then their donors are thinking about life and the meaning of life and what they want to pass on to other generations, especially their family. And as they're thinking about that, is the spoonful of sugar kind of idea that will get them to also contemplate what charities they want to remember. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Nancy says, can we get a sample of the Tell Your Story or Create Your Autobiography template? Actually, no. So, Nancy, this is kind of, although it is out there, I guess, but it's kind of our proprietary stuff. I give the ideas. I won't give away exactly how to do it as a complete template. But if you buy from us, we will do it for you. That's why our slogan is, we do the marketing, you get the results. But I'd be happy to talk to you about it and give you some pointers, or one of my solutionists here can do that as well. We don't want to, prohibit you from actually doing marketing. We want to help you and make it free, but I can't give you the exact, step-by-step process. So I'm sorry, Nancy. I hope you don't find that offensive. Paul said, oh, perfect. Thank you. This is great. Okay. Thank you, Paul. Looks like some people are saying thank you for answering the questions. And gosh, there's more questions flowing in here. So I'll just keep it offering. I'll just stay on, even though we're getting over our time limit now. I'll just keep answering the questions as they flow in. There's quite a bunch. What was the URL address for the 3-to-1 pads. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that slide to help you see it, but it was imarketsmart.com/321. And there it is right there, imarketsmart.com/321. So there you go, Paulette. Is the presentation available? So yeah, in case you missed it, we will be sending that out. It'll be an ebook. It'll be in a few days. Let's see. CRM software recommendations. Okay, so that's a really big question. I'm a little biased in this but we don't get paid. We never create partnerships here with CRM. And we don't want to take money from any partnerships. We just don't believe in that. And in fact, for my solutionists, we don't have commissions. We don't pay commissions. We don't have salespeople here. I think the exchange of money sometimes creates problems in making recommendations. So when it comes to software CRM, I'll just tell you that the CRM that are willing to create APIs, meaning links to other software packages, tend to be the most powerful in my opinion, but I'm not talking from a user perspective, because users, it's kind of like trying on a suit. Are you more comfortable with this one or that one? Some people like Bloomerang, it's kind of for smaller organizations. Others like Blackbaud, maybe for somewhat bigger organizations, especially all the big ones mostly kind of use them. We do have an outbound API that can sync with just about any CRM. So I'm kind of dancing around this answer, Daryl. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be very political, I guess, about it. And okay, how do we get millennials to donate? So this question is really it seems to me not a legacy giving question, because I'm not sure we really want to talk to millennials quite yet. And I'm not a populist fundraiser, meaning I don't really, I work on legacy gifts and major gifts. So I think I should say that I got to bow out of that question because I'm not, I do not specialize in getting millennials to donate. And frankly, they don't have as much money as older folks, and they're not in that kind of giving state of mind. So this may be a little one-sided, but I really think you should stick with focusing on people who have wealth, who have created wealth and can leave it after their lifetime and are a little more mature. That's your best bang for your buck right now. David says, when are you repeating this webinar? I want a couple of others to see it. Well, that's a great compliment, David. Maybe I'll do it again, I guess, if I hear more about that. We will record it. I mean, it has been recorded. It's still recording, in fact. So when we send out the ebook, you'll also get the recording and you can play it for your friends, your colleagues, your staff. I'm going to keep going. More questions keep rolling in. What key themes should be discussed at these planned giving pizza parties? Okay, very important. If you're talking about what key themes should be discussed with your staff, it's one of love for your donors, gratitude, and calling them and giving them the Disney experience, being kind, thanking them, and providing them an opportunity to engage. Start the call by saying, I am not calling to ask you for money, but rather simply to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. So that theme should be given to them. And then, of course, give them that checklist of things that you want them to ask, which is tell your story to me. I want to hear about you. I want to see if there are ways we can get you more involved. And by the way, I'm also curious if you've ever considered a legacy gift. Okay, so I hope that helps you. Doug, that was Doug. Let's see. Heather, providing value on an offer. Can you mention a couple of value ideas again? Okay, so we went through so many. Let's see, the ones that I covered were the tell your story idea, or, kind of like helping them create their autobiography or a legacy letter. There was the opportunity to leave a memorial. There's the legacy challenge concept. Our firm has 18 tried and true value offer concepts that we provide religiously to our clients. If you do a demo, we can show you a lot of those. Of course, we don't really exactly tell everybody how to do them bit by bit, but we'd be glad to share them with you a little bit more. I hope that helps you, Heather. Let's see, one more. I think this might be the last question. What are your thoughts on nonprofits adding entrepreneurship to increase funds? Should they consider starting business to pay for administrative costs at marketing and meeting additional needs? Okay, this is a curious question because I'm not sure what kind of business you're talking about. Maybe you're thinking like selling t-shirts and stuff. Yeah, this would not be my first choice for increasing funds. I think that everything you need is already in your database, probably. There are major givers and there are prospects who have given small gifts but can leave a major gift, a legacy gift, or can move up to become a major giver. I'm pretty sure, unless you're a teeny tiny organization, everything you need is already in your database. And before trying to create an entrepreneurship type of activity and start a business, I can tell you I have started a business. It's very hard. I do not recommend starting a business to try and cover costs when everything you need is already in your database, and all you need to do is reach out to people with the right offers. Ooh, okay. So he said no, like building a wellness center. All right, sorry, Daryl. I still don't completely understand. I guess I'll just finish up by saying I really think building a business is very hard. I think it's actually easier to ask people for money than it is to create a business. I'd have to know more about what you're trying to build, but that scares me. So that's our last question. Oh, no. All right. Well, thanks. Yeah, great answer. Thanks, Daryl. All right. Well, that is our last question. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here and sign off. And I certainly hope that you'll consider engaging with MarketSmart more on our blog, on our groups, downloading other free materials on our resources page, or talking to our solutionists at any time. So thank you very much.